due to the tremendously rich first session that we had. We're running a little bit late, but we will try to make up some time, and thank you very much for your patience. Counterfeiting is a menace that pervades the whole packaging industry across sectors, whether it be pharmaceuticals, where it's obviously deadly and it takes the lives of many patients, to agricultural products, to FMCG, apparel. Indeed, there is no sector that is immune from the threat of counterfeiting, and it is something that continues, unfortunately, to grow year by year. And I can just talk about pharma. I want to just give you one of the shocking statistics, which hopefully will highlight to you how important this issue is. About a year and a half ago, the United Nations issued a report where they said that more than 500,000 people die in sub-Saharan Africa, die from spurious or substandard medicines. And I looked it up. At that time, I looked up the total number of deaths from COVID in the same region, sub-Saharan Africa. It was 300,000. So now you can imagine how seriously we took COVID. Should we not take the threat of counterfeit spurious medicines more seriously than that, given the tremendous loss of life? The problem is similarly present in India as well. We will have an expert to my right, Mr. Manoj Kochar, who is the president of the Authentication Solution Providers Association, just talk a little bit about that. Before I hand it over to Mr. Kochar, just one additional point I wanted to make, that India is really, and I'll just focus on pharmaceuticals, India is the pharmacy to the world. And Mr. Mishra, we are privileged to have here, from the DGFT. The DGFT actually took one of the first initiatives worldwide, way back about 14 years ago, where recognizing the importance of protecting the valuable Indian pharmaceutical exports industry, issued a first of its kind notification to do serialization or barcoding on all exported drugs. It was a landmark regulation, and it was adopted by industry, and it is something that was subsequently followed in different forms by the United States, by European Union, and by many other countries around the world. So India was really a leader. It was something that for many, many years I was hoping would be done for the domestic market as well, and finally in 2023, there was a regulation that came out for the top 300 brands in India to have QR coding as well as verification, and that too was adopted by the pharma industry. So it is something that I feel as India we have recognized for exports first, and then after a few years even for the domestic market, and I really hope that the top 300 will expand to 500 or 1,000. Why can we not cover every single medicine? Why can we not protect the life of every consumer? With that preamble, I will turn it over to Mr. Manoj Kochar to share with us some of the shocking findings and statistics regarding counterfeiting. So over to you, Manoj.
Thanks, Nakul. Pleasure to be here, and I wear the hat of being the president of ASPA, which is Authentication. And just a few slides that will tell you exactly what ASPA does. And we will also have some statistics relating to exactly how damaging counterfeiting is to the various segments, and what is the people's take on counterfeiting. So, yes, can you have the next slide, please, Daniel? So, ASPA was set up in 1998. So, it's a self-regulated organization with over 25 years of experience. Now, way back in 1988, when ASPA was set up, it used to be called Hologram Manufacturers Association of India. Because way back in those days, hologram was perhaps the key and possibly the only technology to fight counterfeits effectively. But sometime around 2014, Humayun realized that, hologram is not the only technology which is prevalent or which is, potent enough to counter the threats of counterfeiting. So then we changed the approach to ASPA, which is Authentication Solution Providers Association, which meant that we invited all technologies used in authentication to come and be a part of this platform. and develop integrated solutions that had not just the holograms, but also security printing, security designing, traceability, serialization, and the works. So today, we are a robust organization of almost 85 members, and our vision is to be the voice of the global authentication and traceability solutions. ASPA is perhaps the only association of its kind worldwide. And I actually mean it. Worldwide, there is no other association like ASPA, which has the focus that ASPA does. And our mission is to develop and promote the adoption of authentication and traceability solutions. And we work largely in 4 key areas, which is awareness, advocacy, which is in industry partnership, research, and innovation. So in awareness, as far as that part goes, we conduct various conferences, webinars, and campaigns. And it's all about raising the awareness. And we try and raise the awareness not only amongst the industry, but amongst the government, the regulators, the policymakers, and also the consumers. And going forward, if we get a chance, I'll probably speak a little more about awareness, because I think the more aware the consumer is, the easier it is to counterfeit. An aware consumer is literally your policeman in the market wearing civilian clothes, yeah? Because if he's on the lookout for fake, and if he catches something that is duplicate of fake, whether it's a medicine or an apparel or a chemical, he can report it. And that really is the most difficult challenge that would be there for the consumer. We also have a lot of advocacy efforts going on, where we connect with ministries, chambers, associations, regulatory bodies, and we have several publications, which through which we spread the word about exactly the harm that counterfeiting is doing and what are the solutions that are currently available. We also have research. So here we do specialized reports. One report that this slide talks about is the Counterfeit News Repository, which is a portal that ASPA has developed, where we record all the reported counterfeit issues or incidences rather. So it's a searchable database, and any person can actually go there if one wants to check exactly what has been the counterfeiting in the apparel segment, for instance. Then he will get a complete report of exactly how many incidents have been reported. So we do that. We've tied up with CRISIL in 2022, and they did a report for us, which is called the State of Counterfeiting in India. I'll share some numbers with that in the next slide maybe. And one of the critical areas where ASPA again is very, very instrumental is in innovation. Because ASPA invites all members, all companies which have anything to do with authentication, whether they're a solution provider, whether they're a raw material provider, whether it's machine providers. So ultimately we realize that it's a collaboration amongst all these, and that is what really helps the solution providers develop a good solution, which is effectively applied and used by the brands. So this is the cover of the State of Counterfeiting report that we had published in partnership with CRISIL, and we covered various segments like what you see here. Now, some findings. 25 to 30% was the extent of counterfeiting, and that's what the customer expectation was. That the counterfeiting is about this number, which is obviously staggering. 31% people willingly bought a counterfeit product. Now you'd imagine why someone would do that. Someone would do that either because the counterfeit product's cheaper. So, a lot of times we see aspirational goods, like, I want a Louis Vuitton bag, but then I can't afford it, so I'll go for a fake, So 31% actually willingly bought counterfeit. At times it can also be ascribed to the fact that perhaps the good that is desired or needed is not there in his territory. So though he realizes it's a counterfeit product, one still goes and buys that. But 89% of the consumers acknowledged that there is a lot of counterfeit in the market. So, and pharma industry is perhaps, a big target for whatever reasons. And almost 20% of the products in the pharma industry are supposed to be counterfeit. So here's another slide that, says agro said 16%, FMCG 28%, consumer durables 17%, automotive 25, pharma 20, apparel 31. And this number is so high because perhaps the perceived damage from a counterfeit apparel is perhaps not as high as a counterfeit medicine. So people probably tend to, buy a cheaper apparel of a brand that is aspirational for them. So they are happy doing that. But when these are what the numbers are. So ASPA is, like I said, the tagline of ASPA is diverse technologies, common goal. So a whole lot of technologies, just about every technology that is out there in the market is welcome and is actually a part of our association now. And they all have a common goal, like I said, which is fight counterfeit. So broadly, our members look at two kinds of solutions. One is the physical, which is security designing or holograms or OVDs. OVDs are like optically variable image devices. They look like a hologram. So to a lay person, they are both holograms, but technically there's a difference between an OVD and a hologram. So that's the physical side. And then there is the digital technologies, where you have track and trace, complete traceability, QR codes, and these days, an interesting thing is what we call a non-clonable code. A few of the companies, of our member companies, they have developed codes that they claim cannot be duplicated. So that's another interesting development going forward. And then, of course, there is the NFC and RFID. So one's hoping that as the prices of the RFID tags or the chips go down, there will be an even more widespread usage of that. So that is so much on the ASPA front. Just share some more numbers with you. I'm not trying to bore you with numbers, but I'm just trying to share the extent of the counterfeits that are there in the market. So from an industry perspective, 0.5% of the GDP is lost to counterfeit. Now, where is this counterfeiting happening? UP tops by far, and then there's Bihar and Rajasthan. They are the counterfeit hotspots. The three of these states account for almost 45% of the counterfeit that you see in the market in India. On an average, between 2018 and 2022, the number of counterfeit incidents are growing at 20%. When I talk about counterfeit incidents, I'm talking about counterfeit incidents that are reported, growing at 20% a year. And the fake and counterfeit FMCG market is growing at 44% per year, which is much higher than what most legitimate FMCG brands are growing at. On the consumer insights, FMCG apparels and automotive spare parts are the top segments where you see a lot of counterfeit. And 50% of the respondents said counterfeit products are only moderately harmful. 29% said they are very harmful. 22% felt that they are not harmful. These are probably the consumers that probably bought apparels or shoes and stuff like that, which they felt were not really harming them as such. And I've already spoken about how a lot of consumers willingly purchase counterfeit. So this is the extent of the problem that we have in the country. I think a lot of action needs to be taken. Fortunate to have Mr. Mishra here, Director IIP. He earlier made a mention of how sustainability will perhaps be brought into the IIP syllabus, which I think is a great thing going forward. But if I may just request Mr. Mishra, and I'm also on the governing body of IIP, and I would also take it up offline with him. Perhaps the time is also right to consider including authentication solutions and traceability as a part of the curriculum. So the next crop of packaging technologists are armed with that skill as well. And that will help the entire industry to tackle counterfeit more effectively. Yeah, so Nakul, anything?
Thanks, Manoj, for sharing your insights and sharing some of the findings of ASPA. I hope that as an audience, we've got a good sense of how deep the problem is and how pervasive it is across industries. Let's now, having looked at the problem, look at what are some of the steps that brand owners and that industry is taking in order to counter it. I'd like to go to Mr. Vijay Bhandarkar first from Lauritz Knudsen. Sir, any insights in terms of what are some of the steps that can be taken to counter this problem?
Thank you very much. So counterfeit is a serious issue, and industry has to really look into it in order to curtail that. And industry, being a manufacturer, has a great responsibility to give safe and secure product at the hands of the customer. So in order to do that, actually they have to incorporate certain measures, some kind of security solutions, which will be part of the package, and basically it should be not easy to copy. It should be really difficult to copy. Another thing is having a packaging which is unique and which also is difficult to copy. There are security features like QR code. Yesterday we were discussing about that. And QR code nowadays are, as government regulations, they have made for top 300 brands, QR code mandatory because it is a high selling drugs which are coming in spurious form. So those measures have been taken by government, and these security labels, actually these codes, gives complete detail about the supply chain, right from manufacturing to the end customer. Whatever supply chain is there, you can trace it, the package, and also if you have something spurious, you can authenticate by scanning the code. So coding system can be generated by the manufacturer, and this system can be incorporated on the package, which will prevent the spurious nature. Second is hologram. There are three-dimensional hologram and hidden images on the hologram which may not be noticed easily, or some numbering system that also very difficult to identify. So those things can be also done at the second stage. And also barcoding system can be applied, where through coding you come to know, coding and decoding, you come to know the whether the product is genuine.
Thank you very much. Just to add to what Mr. Bhandarkar said, supply chain traceability or serialization leading to supply chain traceability is something that has been widely adopted in the pharma industry. Through my work, I have some experience on that front, and as I said, India was a leader in doing this, but other countries, other geographies have also implemented regulations to the point where at this stage, and one estimate that I have is about more than 75% of the world's pharmaceuticals are covered by some kind of serialization or traceability regulation, which really traceability is, or track and trace as it's called, is let's say a fancy technical term, but really what it means is you should be able to track where the product is moving. Through the application of these kinds of codes, you can actually track where the product is moving in the supply chain, so that if it's diverted, for example, smuggled across a border, you can detect that, and it can raise an alarm, an alert, which can be used to take corrective action. And trace is if a product is found in any market where it's not supposed to be, you can trace back where it came from, so that you can actually have the whole history of movement of it. So track and trace is something that has been widely adopted in pharma and is rapidly picking up in other sectors as well. But Turning to my next panelist, Mr. Rohit Mistry is an expert with decades of experience in holography and physical technology. So I would request him to just share some insights, not just about kind of, the physical security solutions, holograms, OVDs, and other solutions, and how they have an impact, but also, in addition, if I could request, what in your experience are some of the ways that these solutions can be adopted? What are the barriers that there might exist, and how can we really push the adoption of these solutions in order to protect the lives and safety of consumers? So over to you.
Thank you, Nakul. Is it on? Audio. Thank you, Nakul. Security and to have a product that is not copyable or packaging that is not copyable is a state of mind. I had once visited some years ago a company, and he told me, yes, I'm making my brand here in Mumbai, but I know there is a counterfeiter in Indore. Now, he was happy because he said, my brand is being made more famous by it. Obviously, wrong way of thinking. Because how long is he going to be in business? Now, physically protecting the brand is a question of how much you value the brand. We can develop packaging that is suitable for every kind of budget. And it is like, let me give you an example. Say you have a bungalow, and you build a bungalow in the open field. Animals and people and everybody trespass. So you're fed up of the animals coming, so you build a 3-foot wall. 3-foot wall doesn't stop the man. So the man is still coming over. So you build a 6-foot wall. He comes with a city, a ladder. So you build a 20-foot wall. He comes with a helicopter. So it's a question of building obstacles. And it's a question of how much obstacle is commercially viable for you. How much does the brand can afford to have that security? Because you see, if a brand you're getting a counterfeiting of about 4 or 5%, a brand authentication device is absolutely important because the cost of brand protection is only less than 0.5%. And the result is 10 times, 100 times more. We had a company called, a famous company, Novartis. They say, we have a problem. That was 15. We developed the packaging for them. And they said, oh, Rohit, we will have to come back to you in 3 years' time because I know it'll be in the marketplace and it'll be duplicated. That was 14, 15. Today we are in 24, end of 24. I'm still waiting for the call. So it's a question of how much budget. You see, security is like a lock. You can buy a door lock for 500 rupees and you can buy a door lock for 5 crores. What do you want to protect? And you have to specify how much you want to have the security. And this is what is dependent on your marketing and nobody else. Because the brand has to stand by itself and generate sales after being protected. If it doesn't generate sales, don't go for the protection. Simple. Because it's not required. So we have, there are a lot of ways of protecting physically. There are tamper evidence, special unique packaging, one-way packaging. Once it's opened, it's destroyed, and so on. So with the hologram also, we have a variety of features that can be built into it. Everyone has a masala box at home to cook, for cooking. My masala box and my neighbor's masala box is possibly exactly the same. But the end result is different, because we are unique in how we prepare that masala. And how tasty it is the result. Now we are both having the same resources. So similarly with the hologram, you have, or with the security packaging, it is a question of specification and working with the vendor to make sure that you're getting their end product.
Thank you, Rohit. A very important point that I just want to stress what Mr. Mistry said, which is that when you look at kind of the losses in terms of the financial losses to the brand caused by counterfeiting, perhaps one way to look at it is that the cost of implementing a solution which can reduce or eliminate counterfeiting will deliver multiples of return on that investment, and that is a lens through which perhaps we should be looking at it, quite apart from the public good and the lives that are saved. It can also be a financial return on that investment. I am being told that we are running a little short of time. So I have one most important question, and I will ask each panelist to just weigh in on it very briefly, so that we can leave this panel discussion at the right place. We started by looking at the statistics on counterfeiting, the problem of counterfeiting, the harms of counterfeiting. We went on to, okay, what are the kinds of solutions that can prevent it? How do we encourage adoption of such solutions so that those measures are in place? But the most important thing where we must end is the patient or the consumer, because end of the day, that is what we are working for. So the question is, how do we raise awareness amongst the consumers of the harms of counterfeiting, and also, that they should use and verify what they are taking, for themselves. So I'll first go to Mr. Bhandarkar for his views on how can we best raise awareness among consumers and ensure their safety.
Consumers should aware about the spurious material, and normally looking at the label, looking at the description given on the package, he should be aware about the content of the product. And because many a times you find similar name, like I have seen while traveling, Bisleri had, you must also have seen Bisleri bottle, that label is look like Bisleri, but there are 3-4 different similar looking kind of Bisleri bottles, or many more in the market. So consumer should be aware about what is the exact name and what are the exact details. Second thing is whatever security measures has been given by the manufacturer, those he should try to see that those are there in the on the package, rightly printed on it. Third one is as said by this one, Nakulji, many a times pricing, basically these spurious products are sold at lower price. So consumers should be aware about what is the price range in which the manufacturer sells this product, sells this medicine. That he should be aware. And also he should try to get it from authenticate source. That is also very, very important. Like or whatever authentic source which a company has decided in their supply chain management, through that source, if they buy, then they are sure that the product is authentic. So these are the things which consumer should know so that he gets the right product.
Thank you. That very good. Know where you are buying the product from. Learn how to differentiate a real product from a fake product. And just be aware. Rohit, anything to add to that? How do sometimes counterfeits can look very, very similar to original products? So how is a consumer to differentiate?
My belief is that it is not the consumer's responsibility to be a policeman for the brand. The brand has to make sure that the consumer gets the right product, and it has a supply chain, everything that has to be managed by the brand and their network. It is not the consumer's responsibility to make sure that I'm getting the right product. Yes, careful deliberation of the label or whatever, getting it from the authenticated distributor, all that is important. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's the brand. The consumer is not the brand's policeman.
Very interesting point of view. I'd like to close this session with the person who started it. What is ASPA's view and your view personally, Manoj, in terms of how we raise consumer awareness and what their responsibilities are?
Raising consumer awareness is right at the top of ASPA agenda. We engage with industry association and also the leading brands at times. I'd just like to cite an example of how a major pharma brand reached out to us about 4 to 5 months ago. They said, look, our medicines are getting counterfeited. We want to understand the counterfeiting landscape. We want to understand how the counterfeiter thinks and exactly what are the technology solutions and other initiatives that can help us arrest this problem. So we had this 1.5 hour long session with the CEO. And then ever since that company, and maybe I can name the company, it's Mankind, right? So Mankind has been very active. The CEO in his social media handle has been talking about the ills of duplication, how fake medicines are affecting and why they need to be arrested. So that initiative is helping raise awareness amongst the consumers. I mean, that is so important. They're not talking about the counterfeit incidents that they have seen in their brands. What they are talking about is the problem at large. That counterfeiting is a deadly, counterfeiting of medicines particularly, is of course quite a deadly kind of crime, and it needs to be tackled head on. So I think with ASPA, through its other initiatives, such as our publications, we frequently contribute articles to a whole lot of publications, technical journals, and other industry events, where we're talking about the perils of counterfeiting and why the consumer should be aware. On a side note, Nakul, I'm digressing a bit in answering this. You know, there is nothing that cannot be counterfeited. Let us also understand that, right? Given the right incentives, anything can possibly be counterfeited. Look at the US banknote, for instance. It's perhaps one of the most secure documents in the world. Even that is being counterfeit. Obviously, if you look at the percentage, it's minuscule, right? But I'm talking about the state of mind. Given the right incentives, people can come very close to the original. But the mindset of a counterfeiter is that if he sees that the product he's trying to counterfeit has a barrier in terms of a security feature there, chances are that he will move away from counterfeiting that brand to a different brand. Because he doesn't want to get into additional problems with having to tackle, getting hold of those features, because then he's leaving a trail behind. So that is the mindset. So I think the brands don't necessarily need to go to the best and the highest and the most expensive technology there is. I mean, they of course can if they have the budget and the vision to do that. But I'm saying even smaller steps will help kind of contain the problem. And gradually the brand can move on and, get into a full-fledged exercise to eliminate the problem even further. And I would also like to mention an ISO standard here. This is an ISO standard called ISO 22383. Now, this is a standard that is an advisory. You don't get registered under this or certified under this standard, but this standard actually gives out a good strategy on how to deal with counterfeits, how to manage your performance of how you progress against these counterfeit, and how to fine-tune the results better. So it's an ongoing battle. I mean, it's not something that you can wish away in an instance because the problem has reached that kind of proportions. But the right effort will probably start the initiative for brands and hopefully go on to minimize the threats associated with counterfeit.
Thank you so much, Manoj. I think some very insightful comments, and I'll just add one thing that I think a very important role can be played in consumer awareness by the government. We know how, when the government machinery moved during COVID, how we managed in record time to vaccinate more than 1 billion people, and raising awareness of the harms of COVID and why you should vaccinate yourself was done through the channels that the government has at its disposal. So, through initiatives like Jago Grahak Jago, we know how consumers have been made aware of various challenges, and it would be our humble kind of suggestion that such channels can be used to raise awareness of counterfeiting as well, because I think that can be very effective. So on that note, I would like to thank my panelists for a wonderful discussion, which hopefully added a little bit to the audience, and thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Nakul, for wonderfully moderating this so important session on the D2. But I also warmly thank you. Thanks, Manoj, my colleague, Mr. Manoj Kochar, the current chairman of Authentic Solution Providers Association, and you being the immediate past chairman. Rohit also is being part of it. And Vijay, my longtime friend, one of the seniors of the IIP alumni, holding the flag high. And we know the importance of combating the counterfeits. I think it's a big menace in the world. Like what we talk about, the wastage generated out of the packaging, I think more than that, the spurious products in the market. I think you guys do a noble job. We take it forward. We don't end this here. And salutes to all the solution providers who have been vehemently inventing by the day, because the day we invent some solution, and the products, the fake producers emulate that already. So we are lagging behind them. And sometimes we are told, last time actually, I was in Parvano, that was around 25 years ago, and that gentleman agreed, the purolator, I think, microfilters. The people who are imitating us are doing better products than ours. But that's an lighter wine, but so that is how the market is, but they get 300% cut, while the brand owner gets hardly anything because he has so much of overheads and promotion activities and all. But nothing will happen if that is duplicated, as long as the product is good. But imagine the life-saving drugs and in the healthcare sector, any small mistake costs us dearly, our lives. So it's a noble cause, and thanks once again for this wonderful opportunity. Immediately after this, I would like to invite the young packaging technocrat working for ITC, Rachel. But before that, I would like to hand over a token of memories to all of you.